guys, it's Alex and welcome back to Where Alex Reads. Today I am coming at you with a book review. Just a quick, tiny little disclaimer. Even though I hate disclaimers, these opinions are my own opinions. They do not reflect at all on how I feel about the author or who she is as a person. I am strictly looking at how I felt about the plot, characters, and the writing style in this book. And if you loved this book, I am super happy for you. I did not hate it, I will say that, but I did have a few things I wanted to kind of address and talk about. So the book I am going to be reviewing is Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. And this book, as I'm sure most of you know, has been everywhere on BookTube and within the book community the past few months. Everyone's been talking about it, and I honestly have not seen anything other than rave reviews, 4 or 5 stars. And I was super excited to finally have the time to pick this up and read it. But yeah. Children of Blood and Bone is a young adult fantasy novel that deals a lot with Nigerian mythology. And it is a multi-perspective novel, so you follow 4 main characters. You have 2 sets of siblings actually. So there's Zelly and her brother Zane, who are part of the merchant class in the land of Orisha, kind of where this novel takes place. And then you also have Amari and her brother Anan, who are prince and princess of Orisha. In Orisha, there are people known as Magi's, and they are characterized by their white hair. In this land, all of the magic was completely wiped out a few years ago. And while Magi still exist and are still characterized by their white hair, they can no longer do magic. Zelly is the main character in this book, and she is a Magi, and she sets out on a quest to restore magic to Orisha. As I mentioned, I have a little bit of a different opinion on this book from the opinions that I have seen from other people and their reviews and things. I didn't hate it, but I do think there were 2 things kind of affecting me and my view on this, so maybe someday if I were to return to this book and reread it, I might like it a little more. I'm not sure. One of those things is the fact that this book was so hyped up. I think I went into it with these extremely high expectations. I thought this was just going to be a complete page turner. I was gonna fly through it in just a couple of days, and I think that may have killed it for me. The second thing is that I just have not been in the mood for a lot of young adult fantasy. I read a lot of it last year and the beginning of this year, and I really think I kind of burned myself out. So I almost forced myself to read this just because of all the hype and because I thought maybe it could kind of spark my interest in it again. But the fact that I wasn't really in the mood for this kind of book, that may also be why I was a little more critical of it. So a few things, because I do have some good things to say about this. I loved the Nigerian mythology and learning about the gods, and I thought that aspect was phenomenal, and I haven't seen that before in a book that I've read, so that was something new and really enjoyable for me. I also really enjoyed the magic system in this, and I thought the book was a little bit slow in getting there and really learning what the different classes of magic were about. Zelly's form of magic in the book, I just really wanted a clear understanding, I think earlier in the novel. So I was reading this and I was like halfway through and really had no idea what her ability was. Like there was a name for it, but it wasn't really talked about until later in the book. So that it just took too long for me to get there, unfortunately. But once it got there and things started getting explained, I think this magic system is different from what I have seen in a lot of fantasy novels, and really enjoyed that aspect of it. I also want to give a big shout out to the audiobook for this one because the narrator was phenomenal. I only read like 20% of this on the audiobook because I am not a huge audiobook person. I am not a great like listener. Everything kind of just goes in one ear out the other, and I daydream a lot, so I feel like I miss things when I listen to audiobooks versus reading the physical copy. But this is one that I really wanted to have the audiobook for before I read it, just because of some of the pronunciations for the names and some of the language and stuff that is in it. So I am really grateful for that. And the narrator, again, phenomenal. And if you are an audiobook person, definitely check this one out. All right, so I'm gonna jump into a few things that I did not particularly enjoy. First of all, I thought this novel was kind of slow. A lot of people say this was so action-packed and you're following them on a journey, and yes, but it didn't keep my interest, I guess. This was a very put-downable book for me. I would read like 20-30 pages and then want to put it down and go read something else. And it took me, I think, like a week to read this novel, which for me is a long time because I was expecting, like I said, to not be able to put this down and read it in a few days, and that just wasn't the case for me. I thought some things could have just been done a lot quicker. I will say the last like 150, maybe 200 pages, those I really got into. Those I sped through, but the first half, a little more than half of this was just very slow. I don't know how else to describe it, and I know a lot of people are going to disagree, but I just couldn't do it. I also thought that the timeline of this book and the way some events happen were just not well thought out and not reasonable. So this part may be a little spoilery. I'm not going to use names or anything like that, but if you don't want to hear it, skip ahead. In this book, there's this one part where some characters are kind of heading off to a certain place, and these other characters are trying to catch up to them and find them. And I just thought the timeline was so unreasonable because these characters chasing them were a few days behind, and the characters being chased stopped for like 15 minutes to rest, and all of a sudden they caught up to them, and I was just like, what just happened? So I thought the timeline of the whole thing was a little bit unrealistic. I also did not particularly enjoy the writing style. There were a lot of very grandiose, large statements throughout this entire book. Like, a lot of the characters would say, I ran as fast as I ever ran in my entire life. And then later they'd be running again, and again they were running as fast as they've ever run in their entire life. And I was just like, what is happening? You just ran twice in like 20 pages as fast as you possibly could run ever. And this is just a really obscure example, but there were a lot of these over the top things that the characters would say that it wasn't believable for me. So that was tough to read, I guess, and I think that kind of contributed to me putting this book down a lot more than I thought I was going to. In terms of the like suspense factor and twists and turns that this book took, I thought they were predictable. There wasn't anything really that completely shocked me. Obviously, going through the novel, you're learning more about different characters and about their abilities and the magic system. So those things I was learning about, but the main twists and turns that the book took, I guess I saw most of them coming, and there wasn't anything that super shocked me. Maybe one thing, but yeah, even the very ending of the book, I just knew that was going to happen. So even though I guess we don't really know because there's going to be more books, so the author could totally throw us for a loop in the second book. But yeah, I don't know. I appreciate what the author was trying to do. Again, loved the mythology and things like that, because that was stuff that I had never learned about before and didn't know anything about, and I really enjoyed that aspect. For me, unfortunately, this was not a 5-star read. I think I gave this 3 stars on Goodreads, maybe 3.5. Will I read the second one? Yeah, I think I by the end of the book, I just kind of enjoyed the story for what it was, and accepted the fact that this is not the next great fantasy novel for me. It's definitely not on the level of some other books that I have read and loved, but it was entertaining, and I will probably pick the second one up. I love to see how an author's writing progresses, and like I said, that was kind of my big issue with this one. And it was a debut novel, and better than anything that I would ever write, so I mean, hey. But yeah, I am really interested to see how her writing progresses throughout the series and if she improves. I was interested in the characters. I love the magic system, so I'm hoping the second one will be a little bit better for me when that does come out. I have been rambling now for like a long time, so I'm going to wrap this up. I'm definitely curious to hear some other people's opinions on this, especially if you read it and were like me and just kind of because I feel kind of alone in my opinion on it. Like, if I really scroll through the depths of Goodreads to people that I don't know, I can find some people that had similar opinions, but for the most part, everyone just raved about this. And yeah, maybe I'm missing something. I don't know. If you think I am, definitely let me know. But yeah, that is all that I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and you have a great rest of your day.